Our next question is from Rosaline, and they're also interested in frameworks. Rosalind wanted to know, is it necessary for me to include a conceptual framework or a theoretical framework in my dissertation? Or am I just overcomplicating things? Matthew, we've spoken a little bit about the conceptual framework. We haven't touched too deeply on the theoretical framework, but are these necessary in a dissertation, and why do we include them as well?
Yeah, so yes, I think these are necessary in your dissertation, even if your university does not explicitly require one. Why? A
Mm.
couple of reasons. First, they help you as the researcher to map out where you're going and to make sure that all the constructs that you're operating with exist in a cohesive universe. I kind of think about this like comic book authors. Comic book authors create rich, detailed universes. And when they do that, they create rules for how that universe works. And that's what you're doing with your theoretical framework. And I would say your conceptual framework too. You're creating the rules around which your new universe, your dissertation, is going to work. And it's so important because I guarantee you, if you have ever read a comic book, if you've watched a comic book movie, or just go on Reddit and start looking at comic book chats. Anytime that those authors violate the rules of the universe, everything else falls apart. And the people like me, the nerds on the internet, go crazy about this happened because you violated this rule that you established in episode 2 at 15 minutes in, right? It's the same concept over here. You're creating rules for your universe. And by taking time to methodically build that theoretical framework for yourself, again, whether it's required by your university or not, this is a self-preservation activity. You're creating the rules of your universe, and that is going to guide the methodology that you choose, the survey questions that you include, the interview questions that you write, the coding methodologies that you choose, the audience that you select to participate in your project. All of that exists within the rules that you create through your theoretical framework.
I think that's really helpful. And as a fellow nerd as well, when power scaling goes out of whack in a DC or Marvel comic, I am one of those guys who notices it as well. I think it's really helpful that we engage with that concept, that analogy, that it's setting the rules. To help people set those rules, what are some key mistakes that you often see in clients or students when they're presenting a conceptual or a theoretical framework? I know we've already mentioned the lack of citations, but do you have any other common mistakes that you see students make as well?
Yeah, so a couple of other common mistakes I would say is first, falling in love with the first theory that you find. It is easy for us to get excited about a particular theoretical framework, and then we start to just write the others off, or we maybe just stop looking altogether. So it's important that you find a theoretical framework that you like, that resonates with you, but it's also important that we're looking at all the other possible theories and that we are rejecting theories for a cause. So we're not rejecting theories just outright or because we feel like we're done, but we're saying this theory doesn't work for me because. And here's where this really gets you, because you do this in year 1, month 1 of your dissertation. And then in year 3, you're doing your dissertation defense, and someone on your committee says, well, why did you reject this other theory? That may be their pet theory that they really like. And if you haven't methodically and thoughtfully rejected that theory or included it, you're going to have a problem with that person in your defense. So it's important early that we really vet those theories carefully. The other mistake that I find a lot is we talk a lot about synthesizing theories together, but sometimes theories don't synthesize. Sometimes they can't synthesize. And so we don't want to force things together that don't fit. Okay. I think that's an important element. So if they rely on fundamentally different, to use our comic book example, fundamentally different universal assumptions and rule assumptions, they're not going to synthesize. Don't squish them together. Don't force them together. We want things that are going to work together. And so we want to look at that universe of rules. We want to make sure that everything aligns within.
I think that's so important, that idea of not forcing it, but also making sure that you're testing and have justifications. I think anywhere in a dissertation, regardless of whether you're in the introduction, methodology, literature review, or another chapter, is the importance of having clear justifications and explanations for the choices that you've made or the findings that you found as well.